This scene from the 1954 film White Christmas reflects what most people's attitude is towards snow during the Christmas season, and despite the attitude we have, it may not necessarily be the case that we see a white Christmas. And I'm going to explain why, for the Great Lakes region, why we will likely not see a white Christmas this year. Hello everybody, the time is 7:12 p.m. and it is December the 12th. Welcome to another update from Great Lakes Weather. Hopefully everybody is doing well today. We are now only 13 days until Christmas, and we're starting to kind of get a rough idea of what our forecast for a white Christmas looks like. This is a scene actually from a place called Boyne Mountain, and this is a hill called Cold Springs, and they actually were able to open for a little bit earlier in the season. Now temperatures have begun to warm up and things have started to close down a little bit again, and we may not see the potential for enough snow to keep things running for some of the ski slopes around here for a while. Again, temperature's going to warm up into the 50s for a lot of places, and there's going to be quite a bit of rain. Now, I'll get into a bit more details on that a little bit later on. What I want to focus on with this forecast is the white Christmas potential that we have. So, we're going to dive into all of the different things that we're kind of investigating when we look at the white Christmas forecast. And before we get to that, again, you see obviously one thing we're looking at is the El Nino, and that's kind of a heavy influencer in our white Christmas forecast. Okay, this information is coming from the Climate Prediction Center. You can find all the information related to upcoming climate patterns for the globe practically using this website. So we're going to utilize several different resources today to kind of just give us a general overview of what the forecast is going to look like. So we're going to start first of all by looking at the El Nino, which is again the southern oscillation. Now looking at this graph, you're probably looking at it and seeing, what does this mean? Well, this is actually showing the sea surface temperature anomalies in degrees Celsius for the western Pacific, just west of South America and just to the southwest of Central America. Okay, you can see that the temperatures at the surface are higher than normal. Okay, so again, we're in a strong El Nino pattern. All right, and this is actually due to the fact that the wind over the Atlantic has strengthened and is kind of pushing warmer water out into parts of the Atlantic or the Pacific Ocean. Okay, and that strengthening is actually enabling an effect on our climate pattern. A warmer Pacific Ocean actually strengthens the subtropical jet stream and weakens the polar jet stream that usually brings us, again, that so-called polar vortex that most people talk about. Okay, a strengthening of the subtropical jet and a weakening of the polar jet stream, what happens is that the polar jet stream that usually dips down into the northern United States will actually stay farther to the north throughout the year. Okay, and that's actually something we're expecting for much of winter, even into next spring. Okay, and the subtropical jet stream is going to be stronger, enabling for flow of warmer air to continue into parts of the southern United States that may also begin to filter in to parts of our area as well. And you've kind of noticed the trend has been much warmer, and the Climate Prediction Center is actually projecting that to be the case. Part of that is due to this El Nino pattern that we have currently in the central Pacific Ocean. Another thing I want to point to is the North Atlantic Oscillation. So again, you're looking at this and probably wondering, what does this all mean? What this is showing is we're actually looking at the pressure differences in the upper levels over the North Atlantic. Now you're probably asking, why on earth is that important? Well, a positive phase, which is what we are in, of the North Atlantic Oscillation, which you can see right here. Okay, this is kind of our current time, and this is the forecast projection for the North Atlantic Oscillation. So over the next few days, or over the next week or so, it's trending higher in a positive phase. What does that mean? Well, that actually means the pressure gradient between two different air masses over the North Atlantic is going to be stronger than usual. And what does that mean? Well, that actually strengthens, once again, the flow of air through that region, and that actually allows for warmer air to move through that particular area. Okay, and that's also going to affect the amount of movement of air in our region too. What's that going to mean? It means likely warmer air is going to be traveling through our area more often. Okay, what does that mean? Well, then that means we're going to see temperatures that are going to be warmer than usual, and it's probably going to be milder. Maybe there will be a few systems of rain here and there, and you may see that reflected across some of the forecast models as well. But you can kind of see the next the forecasts that are shown here are basically projecting that we will remain in the positive phase at least towards the end of December. Okay, so that projection has another indication of a warmer than average part of winter, this end of this December, that will likely lead to us seeing more of a green Christmas. Yes, I know I'm dashing everyone's hopes right now, but reading the model data, you can kind of get an idea that this is what is going to be the case. Climate Prediction Center is also seeing this and also other different variables that are in place and forecasting a temperature outlook between December 20th and 26th that is well above average. You can see that is a very dark shade of red across the western portion of the Great Lakes region. So likely above average for all of Michigan. Much of Indiana and Ohio is included in this as well. It's looking like much of the United States is going to be warmer than average. It's going to be a very mild start to the winter season with this setup that we currently have sitting in the atmosphere. So, again, keeping this in mind, it's showing that the probability for a white Christmas is going to be low for our region. I would not be surprised to see maybe a few places of snow across the portions of the Upper Peninsula, but I think areas far to the south should have low expectations on a white Christmas during this particular phase of the climate. Again, this is also showing the temperature outlook for weeks 3 and 4. So 3 to 4 weeks ahead, you see December 23rd to January 5th, still showing that above average trend for temperatures. Now you do notice it kind of goes below average later on. Now, some models have been hinting that the North Atlantic Oscillation out closer to the in the North Atlantic obviously, is going to start to weaken later on, and we might start to see a bit of a cooling trend occur as a result of that in the beginning of next year. So that's something that is still a little bit farther out that we can't make a full projection on, but that's just something to consider that we might start to see winter take hold a bit more firmly later on post-December. So that's just something to keep in mind. Let's take a look at how the models are playing this out. Okay, so again, your North Atlantic Oscillation has a bit of a higher pressure gradient, tighter pressure. You'll kind of see that as we go through this model run here. But again, that high pressure sitting over the North Atlantic, you can kind of see that there. And there's a nice strong ridge that's going to be sitting over much of the United States. This is the continental view. Again, 500 millibar height anomaly shows the differences in pressure at different levels of the atmosphere. And the better shades of red that you see are typically associated with ridging or high pressure building up. And that's typically associated with warmer temperatures also as well. Not in every case, but in a lot of cases in the United States, we kind of associate it, especially if it's sitting over an area for an extended period of time, we can see some warmer temperatures. So you can see ridges, and then troughs are usually associated with low pressure systems aloft. So again, that's just something to keep in mind. Really, the places where you see your systems begin to form with these troughs and ridges are kind of in between where these pressure gradients kind of change. Okay, so you kind of see that in the isobars, reflected in the isobars as well, where those systems are. You got a system kind of moving through associated with this trough and ridge, shifting off to the east. This is around Christmas Eve, is being projected by the CFS model, and you can kind of tell that it's kind of going to be, you do see this trough kind of dipping down into the western United States and kind of moving its way up to the northeast. Again, we'll have to take some time to determine exactly what specific systems we will see across much of the United States, but I think it's trending more along the lines of a warmer than average time of the season. So we're likely probably going to see mostly rain for the Great Lakes region as that low moves through the area. So you see kind of that warmer or that ridge kind of continues to settle in, and then you look into the longer range very far out, and again, we don't really want to make accurate, fully affirmed forecasts on this because it's raw model data, but you can kind of see that there's kind of a change showing up in some of the models as you get into later on next month into parts of January. So that's just something we're going to have to watch for as we get closer to that time frame. For now, as we get into close to Christmas Eve, we'll kind of get a look at some of the systems that might occur. You do notice that there is some snow falling, maybe across parts of the Upper Peninsula at this current time. As we progress it forward, you can see that the models are really hinting at that more of a rainy type precipitation as you see the different systems move through, different pressure systems move through, low pressure systems and the high pressure systems kind of following along with that. You see this interesting system coming off to the south. I don't think that's going to impact the Great Lakes region too much based on the models. You might get some rain in Ohio, but models have been consistently trending on it being farther off to the east. So not really something I am very concerned about at this current time. So, and you can kind of see that it's going to be really quiet, according to the GFS, for much of the Great Lakes region through even next week, Friday, December 22nd. You can see that there's not really much showing up on the models. As we get to Christmas Eve, you start to see a little bit of a rainy pattern show up, but again, keep in mind right here, this is the long range model, and models aren't not in great agreement as to what this is. But you can kind of see with this model run too, it's mostly looking like rain. Okay, and that rainy pattern continues even through Christmas, and that'll make it even more of a gloomy, well, blue Christmas, I guess you could call it, as we have that rainy pressure system possibly moving through the area during the Christmas season. So what is my prediction for a white Christmas across any place in the Great Lakes region? A solid 20%.